On Thursday, September 27th, Grenada's Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Keith Mitchell, and Foreign Affairs Minister, Honorable Peter David, are coming to Brooklyn for a special town hall meeting. All Grenadians and friends of Grenada in the diaspora are invited. Join the discussion on the state of affairs in Grenada. It's from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the auditorium of the Medgar Evers College on 1650 Bedford Avenue. Come, let your voice be heard. Thursday, September 27th, Grenada's Prime Minister and Foreign Affairs Minister in a town hall meeting at Medgar Evers College from 5 p.m. Yeah.
And good morning to Grenada, Carriacou, and Pity Martinique. Once again, it is time for Hard Talk. My name is Sheldon Scott.
And I'm Devon Romain.
And this is Hard Talk. And while we'd like to be live on 97.5
and 89.5.
I know why I'm not hearing you. Okay, now I go hear you.
We are not.
Yeah, there seems to be a problem in the... Wait now, me that keeping phone on? Hey, no, don't call me now. Wrong time, Popo. We go talk later, eh, Popo? Nice, all right, nice, okay, good. Yeah. While we would like to be live on 97.5 and on...
89.5.
Yeah, there seems to be a problem in the mountainside here in Grenada. But of course, we have listeners who are out there in Brooklyn and so on. Those of you out in North Carolina, those of you who are listening online, listening and viewing online. So we must do the program online and so on.
We ain't got no choice.
Yeah, we have a choice, so we could do it. There's always a choice to do or not to do.
you go answer, not me.
Yes, indeed. So, folks, we're online on a Hard Talk Grenada Live on Facebook, and we're also live on YouTube on Hard Talk Grenada. And we have a guest in studio with us this morning. Once again, by popular demand, we have in studio with us, Devon, you tell them Dr. Jason Fleming's name. You go ahead, Devon, and tell them who's the guest.
Dr. Fleming, welcome. Welcome back, in our studios, and it has been, widely recommended that you come back, not just because you, as some of the ladies say, you're good looking, but you have a wealth of information. So welcome again to Hard Talk.
It's good to be back, man. Thanks for the mama. Mama guiding me.
Yes, indeed. And folks, the phone number, we'll have the phone lines open because we know many of you had questions the last time around. One of the things I always realize with doing a radio talk show is that when you're not getting many calls, it does not mean that not much people are listening. It means that they themselves they're listening and they're absorbing the information that you're giving out. Yeah, but the phone lines are open because you may have questions and so on. 440-7377
and 347-329-3101.
Yeah, I think I have to send up Devon Mike more. Find hearing him low in a kind of way. Yeah, I think I'll send you up there. I think it should be good now.
And no more voice in low.
Yeah, so
I have a heavy voice.
I think it should be good there. So let's say a special good morning to all of the online listeners wherever you are. We hope that you're having a fabulous morning this morning. And we hope everything is going your way for you this morning. And just by note, this evening at in St. Andrew Southwest Harford Village, there's that meeting by the Honorable Yolande Bain Hosford in Carriacou at the Bogus Community Center. You have your list with you, Devon? You have this? Yeah? Okay. St. Patrick East.
Yeah, that's at the
Mount Rose Primary School. And St. David at the current government school. Yeah, so all of them starting 6 p.m. this evening. So if you're in any of those areas, you can head out, weather permitting, because we realize the weather kind of behaving bad.
Yeah, it's trying to.
The weather is kind of acting up. It's not. Doc, I say some people that suffer from paranoia. We partner that suffer from paranoia. He's get paranoid when he hear the weather and thing. We needed to clinically diagnose him to make sure that he's okay. You know, you're hearing. You move the thing over here now. Yes, indeed. Yeah, but a lot of people are free. Especially we had that serious weather earlier this year. When we had that rain, constant rain for several hours. And it did cause a lot of disruption and so on. Some people's property were damaged. Some people lost their vehicles and all that sort of thing. And I think since then, a lot of people are still kind of paranoid. Anytime they hear rain start to fall,
right?
It's just, we live in the Caribbean, so we get rain.
Yeah, I think we should learn to get accustomed to those type of events. But I guess if it's causing trauma. Every time you hear rain drop on your roof, you might not go back to losing your stuff again. So it kind of goes hand in hand in terms of what you have experienced. If it's something bad you experience, and you hear the song of the bad thing that you experience, it's good. It's easy for your mind to go right back onto that again. That's how the human being is.
And what add to a lot of that too, as we said, couple of weeks ago when we had that 7.3 trauma, is the first time most Grenadians ever had that experience. So it's it's a lot going on around this time, especially in hurricane season. We tend to be on edge, a lot of us.
When it comes to the earthquake part, up to today, I still feel like you still feel like you stand up and you're wondering because you find like the place shaking. Doc, as we get started now, there is something that happens to people every now and again, and it's a common phenomenon. I hope I'm pronouncing the word correctly without biting off the tip of my tongue. Where people go to bed, or you might be slightly between awake and sleep, and you find you can't move in bed. Is that a psychological something? Some people that say spirit hold them down. What is that really about? Is that a psychological issue? Is it what is that about?
Yeah. For those who have actually treated with that type of disorder, it stems from activities from the day or being stressed out during the day, or being anxious and actually going to bed with a lot of things in your mind. What happens is that your body would react totally different, because whereas you might be in a stage of semi-sleep, your mind and your body is still so active, and I know that you actually feel the weight of either someone holding you, something is happening. In fact, sometimes you're fighting to open your eyes because you believe that something is over you, and a lot of that has to do with, how you went to sleep, or how things would have gone through that day with you, or if there is any genetic disorder that you would have had before, you realize that will cause that then.
So that can be genetic as well. That can be passed on from parents used to go through that, and the children go through that as well.
Well, depression of itself, even bipolar, all these things have origin. It could be genetic as well. In terms of passing on one to the next. So yes.
Yeah, because oftentimes you hear people call. Sometimes somebody might even call my good friend Shaggy in the morning, and they call and they say, "Tell so and so stop flying look around the area because last night I lied down and I had to real fight him. Last night. I could have barely get away."
Put some sand in front there, though.
It's more of what that individual has been through during the day that may
and not only
come across in
not only during the day, but even dreams and sleep in itself have a way of when your body should be at rest, or when you're at rest, your mind have a way of either decreasing, limiting, removing, or bringing up all these things. And if you have an influx of it at the same time, what happens is that although you're in bed and you're sleeping, you feel like if it's actually happening, you're living the experience, just like hearing a voice and nobody is hearing, and you actually live in the experience, so your whole body start to shake, you probably move your hands to push off whatever is before you.
So the person actually start fighting in the sleep then?
Yeah.
I mean, I see children sometimes they talk in the middle of the sleep, but with big persons
as well. I mean, it wasn't because of the age. It has a lot to do with how you can actually absorb things and deal with issues and so forth.
So the partner that came with the black eye and say his wife boxed him while she's sleeping,
probably boxed himself.
So okay, or the wife actually boxed him, but it was in sleep. So it's not that he was getting beat up during the day.
It's quite possible get beat up with them, because you see the issue here. This is Grenada, and Grenada women, they don't make joke, they don't mind punching you. So I'm not taking up for them at all. It's quite possible. I give you the experience about my grandmother already, so I ain't taking up for them at all.
but as you on that question, why it is there, and it has been tradition, and so that women tend to be the more firmer, or how I say it, within the home, like while growing up in the 60s and the 70s. Why do you think so?
But by nature, women can deal with a whole lot more of emotions than men. When dealing with kids and so forth, there's a level of personality that is needed. A level of either being, when to discipline, when to love, and so forth. For men, we understand how to love. We can love and so forth. We can discipline, but it's actually more difficult for us because of that emotional buildup that is needed to do that. For instance, if you decide to stay home and okay, tell your wife, okay, you go to work, and I'll stay home and I'll take care of the kids. You'll realize after a week you're begging her to leave her job, and you go out and find a job, because you in your mind you was thinking it's easy, I'm home, I can watch TV, and I can, I don't need to worry and so forth. And I remember I did it for my wife one time, and that was that was hard, So women are different, magical makeup in terms of being able to take on certain things and deal with certain things. Just imagine a man had to give birth to a child, go through that pain. We have a slight little toothache, and we ball along the place, you have to go and see the doctor and whatnot, and ladies can actually deal with those pains, so it's totally different.
Hours,
It's totally different between them. They can deal with those things, certain emotional things. We prefer not to, because as men we are more strong, we want to be mature and so forth. For ladies, there's a need for it. They will go in and cry and deal with it and come back out and so forth. Whereas for a man, we want to throw our chest up in the air and you say, you know what, I'm gonna go hang on to the boys and drink a beer and so forth. Next thing you're drinking 2 and 3 and 4 and 7 beers, and next thing you're alcoholic. That's how we deal with things on a mature basis. Why they can be more emotional, and that's why it's important for them to talk. They always want to talk. You know,
I was about to ask that.
The
Why
o-
women are so naggy?
yeah, they always want to talk. Yeah, they also want to talk. There was an issue. They're always feeling this way.
Men
They
going
always
at some
feel.
dangerous girls.
Yeah, they always.
Dangerous
He's by himself on this one. I'm the expert. So I'm explaining.
That was deliberate.
I'm explaining.
Good morning, Brenda.
That was
Yeah, it's a need for them. It's because of the emotional build up of a lady. It's a need for them to talk things out and to discuss things. And sometimes they just shut off and they don't want to discuss. And then another time they want to discuss it again. It's the one author actually wrote a book called a Man is from Mars and Woman from Venus. Another psychologist showed the difference between and Sheldon face twist up right now like a roti. He's confused right now.
Oh, boy.
Showed the difference between a man's brain and versus a woman, and it showed that a man would have one long line, whereas a woman she has the lines all over the place. A man can just go to that box and deal with things, whereas a woman, once she touch one thing in the box, has to touch every other thing. That's how they are. They're emotional, so they will come to you and they want to discuss. What's going on. I don't feel you love me anymore. You're not taking me out anymore, and so forth. And it's because they and most times. It's not because you're not doing it enough, but they want to know, they want to hear it, they want to feel it, they want a hug, they want flowers. They're actually telling you, listen, you need to do a little more because I'm feeling like you're not interested anymore like you used to be. So for us men, once we providing.
We feel comfortable.
Yeah, once we provide in, that's love. I'm giving you my paycheck and so forth. I'm home and so forth. That's enough. I'm a woman saying, no, man, I need more. I need more than that. So it's important to understand the lady that you're with. Because
and let me ask you one final thing.
No more that again.
No, one final thing. Is it wise, right? I mean, based on your marital experience and even growing up, is it a wise thing to ignore a woman?
Sometimes. Sometimes. And sometimes it's important to think before you answer. Because we would answer out of vexation, this woman continued, and that is it. In fact, a woman will remember things, emotional things, longer than a man. So what happens is that you would say certain things, just to push her off, that's why I don't come home at all. And that's the end of it. Yeah. She will always look out and say, okay, she's not coming home, and okay, he's going to stay out because it's an issue, So they relate things with things. Everything have to connect, For us, we say one statement, we done, we loving again. They remember that, and he had to go here, and they have to go here, they have to go here. But in terms of the brain structure and whatnot, they cannot just deal with one thing. They have to always move from one to the next. Yeah. And if we as men, if we can understand that, and at times, and let's allow them to be ladies because they can be nothing else.
Yeah, we'll be all right.
Then we'll be happy. That's by the way.
I had to get that off this morning.
You all realize for that whole section, I wasn't saying anything, right? So, ladies, I safe, right? Yeah. Ladies, I'm safe.
He wasn't saying anything verbally, but his face. But he's saying by his face.
One of the listeners is saying, women don't like to be ignored. She wouldn't stop fussing. I can tell you, when you're ignored, that is when you're in problem self sometimes. But anyway, afraid. All you old with that one. But sleep psychosis. It's something that people go through from time to time. You have many people going through. And I think a lot of these things we traditionally that there are psychological links to. We sometimes take them as something in the spirit realm. So as they say, okay, somebody flying Lugaro in the area.
Right.
That has been happening. I fall asleep and I wake up and I have a bruised day, I have a red mark here, I have a red mark there. Yeah. And that sort of thing. Not that it do a Lugaro in, maybe a Lugaro in. I can't say do a Lugaro. I mean, see.
That is
you never know, but that is another discussion for another time. Maybe we might have to call Pastor King and have a chat. Yeah. But psychological issues that people go through, and we've been hearing about the issue called bipolar.
Right.
Explain to us what is bipolar and what are some of the signs that a person may be bipolar.
Mm-hmm. Well, bipolar is a form of depression, but depression with mania or hypermania. The difference between the two is that one has a severe swing mood for no reason at all, a severe swing mood, which is accompanied by mania or hypermania based on if it's bipolar 1 or bipolar 2. One is severe, where it will last longer, 3 to 8 months in terms of that, if you're not medicated or if you don't learn ways of dealing with it. Whereas depression of itself can last for a shorter time. You know, the right name for depression would be the depressive the disorder, whereas bipolar 1 was once known as manic depression. Manic depression because it's from one stage until to the next. But the difference between the two is one with mania and one with and the other one, well, mania and hypomania, whereas the other one would not accompany those things.
Now, one of the things is that how can one identify? And I mean, yes, you need to go to a clinical psychologist and do a proper assessment. You can't just decide person A is bipolar, person B is bipolar. You must do a proper clinical assessment to do that. But what are some of the signs that you could pick up as maybe the husband or the wife that, look, my wife looks like she's suffering from a bit of that, or my husband or my child is suffering from a bit of that. I need to, 1, verify, and 2, get help.
Okay. I think the biggest issue has to do with the difference between depression and bipolar. Because depression, whereas it was bipolar was one called manic depression, bipolar is somewhat different. For instance, depression is which was also called depressive disorder or major depressive disorder, often goes hand in hand with sleep problems and change in appetite and trouble concentrating, and that's how you can actually tell if it's depression. However, bipolar, which is sometimes called manic depression, is different. If you have it, you have extreme mood swings, and that's the difference between the two. A severe mood swing where you can actually become even violent at times for no reason at all. You experience period of depression similar to major depressive disorder, but the mood swings of itself, it comes on for no reason at all, and then you become very elated, you become hyper at the same time, and that's the difference. And that's why sometimes you're not just diagnosed with bipolar, but you could also diagnose with psychosis as well because of the behavior. In fact, you have a disorder which is called schizoaffective disorder, which is a combination of schizophrenia and bipolar at the same time because of the and truth about it, we have a number of individuals here in Grenada who's been treated for that. So they give them one type of medication because sometimes you're not even sure how to diagnose them, which one to treat. So there's some medication that they give, especially at Monge, that's kind of target that's everything one time, and whereas I don't really fully agree with it. I think everyone should be fully diagnosed before you treat them, because there are different medication for different things, different treatment for different disorder. Sometimes it's kind of difficult, especially without revenue, without resources, without technology and so forth to help do those things. So that's where we are.
So we're still a far way off to where we need to be when it comes to the issue of mental health in Grenada. We're still a far way off from where we should be.
That's an understatement. I read an article some years ago, and I did a proposal for mental health here in Grenada. I quoted a statement from a World Health Organization where it had actually called the mental health situation in Grenada as deplorable. And the reason for that is that we have something in place. And I want to say that clearly, we have something in place. But what we have in place is a surgical. We have a small plaster over a surgical cut. That's what we have in place. So we have individuals who would go to Monge and so forth, and what happened because of lack of resources and things like that, they are just there. They are just roaming about the place. They get their medication, and some of the medication of itself can actually cause more harm than good. And in my own experience, I've seen it for myself.
Because you've heard of people that I know of one individual that would be medicated, and that individual would have been on medication. I think it's every so often they have to go to Mount Gay and receive their medication, and they've been doing that since the 70s.
Yeah.
They're pretty leveled out. If they don't take their medication over a period of time, they become a bit agitated and so on, but they've been taking it since the 70s. But
since the 70s.
It has leveled them out, but it does not improve them.
Yeah, and for a lot of cases like that, what happens is that after a while, your body will become so accustomed to that same medication that you have to continue increasing the dosage over and over and over again until eventually you have to find something new to give to them because there's no effect at all on it. You know, and one of the medication.
Also, over that period of time, every now and again, the medication itself would have been changed.
Yeah, they would have changed it. And I mean, if from the 70s to now, we have a lot of new medication. In fact, Haldol wasn't actually in place, and that's one of the medication they use heavily at Monkey. That wasn't really in place in the 70s. You know, Risperdal that came in 1999, 2000. Some people started using Risperdal, which is a better medication from Haldol, but it's from the same family like that. So from the 70s to now, a lot of things have changed in terms of medication. But I want to go back to the point that we have it's a surgical cut and we're using a small plaster, even in terms of dealing with what's going on. You know, you have the prison. I mean, there is hardly any type of rehabilitation taking place with these people who need. And I think about it. This is I mean, this is my conclusion. One, in two individuals in Grenada have some type of mental health issue. And I'm very and I choose my words carefully. I didn't say disorder because I know people think that
everybody in Grenada crazy.
Yeah, mental health issue and mental health issue would include anxiety and stress, you know, which is not really categorized as a disorder in terms of being you need treatment and medication or be strapped down and so forth, you know. And here's the other fact: when they don't have it, the other one who didn't have it at that time will have it. So when it comes to mental health, at one time or the next, everyone will have to deal with it. In Grenada, everyone will have to go through a cycle of depression, a cycle of sadness, a cycle of loss, a cycle of anxieties, and so forth. And you know, and if we don't have things in place to deal with that, then we will have a society where it would continuously get worse. Because if certain type of behavior, or certain type of mental health is not treated, it will get worse. You know, and it'll put more pressure on the government to come up with ways and solutions and so forth to deal with these things.
A few years ago, we had a serious incident here in Grenada. I'm trying to remember the year, but it isn't coming to my mind right now, where an individual would have committed a murder, would have killed two individuals, and would have basically brought body parts to the police station. And in reading the case itself, reading the outcomes of that case, the individual stated that one, they were supposed to travel in the morning, and they had their suitcase and everything, and they were
pick up somebody in the airport. You're supposed to pick up somebody in the airport.
Well, something like that.
Yeah.
I know. I was reading the case, and it was some sort of situation like that involving traveling. But the more frightening one is that the individual said that they don't actually remember committing the murder. Somebody came in the head and told them, kill that man. And they killed him. And they went and they got the other individual and brought the other individual, and someone in there told them, kill that man too. And they killed them. And that they were hearing people laughing at them when they were passing through the community, calling them Batman and that sort of thing. Excuse the language here, folks. I'm just going word for word what was said in the documents that I saw from the court. That they were being accused of being a Batman. That's what they were hearing. Don't know if it was true that the community was actually doing that. But this led to that person committing, which has been one of the worst crimes that we've had in the history of Grenada, taking place.
Yes.
Are we to be afraid of other individuals who may be going through the same? First of all, what was that person going through?
Yeah.
What would you have diagnosed? I don't know if you were involved in that case itself. You were. Lord, I'm talking to the right person. I should have read the documents a little closer. Yes. So, what was that person going through? And can that person be rehabilitated?
Yes. Since 2013 to now, if there was a case involving murder or rape or incidents like that, I would have probably had a hand in the court will ask me to diagnose and make a recommendation to the court. Especially if it had to do with if a person is competent to stand trial, if they understand they understand the reason for going before the court, if you understand the legal proceedings and stuff like that, I would have to to documentation to say yes, this person is competent cognitively. They can understand what's taking place. They can then support it to the lawyers and so forth. Now, in terms of that particular case, here's the thing: that was a difficult case. The reason why this person never did anything like that before, nor did the person actually show any signs of mental of some form of psychotic behavior before, and that what made this so difficult. In analyzing that particular case, you had seen that this person would have gone through certain things in his own lifetime, and I want to make this thing clear that there was a very thin line between sane and insane. You don't get up in the morning and say, I'm going to kill someone, and that's why it's so important that these individuals should be evaluated, even while they're going through the whole legal process, and what they should be evaluated, and certain recommendations should be made from a professional, because it's not the case where they get up and they said, I'm going to kill someone today, and the other thing is this: in his case, when I looked at his case, I realized certain things, that he had a past that was kind of hidden, and anything at all could have brought up that region in him. Now he is diagnosed with affective disorder, schizoaffective disorder. He's diagnosed with that. So he has both a thinking disorder, and that's what this is: a thinking disorder and a mood disorder. Schizophrenia is a thinking disorder, whereas bipolar is a mood disorder. That is different between the two. So he has a combination of both. And anything could actually chip off. For instance, he's hearing certain things in the back of his head. I did these exercises with the police service, and then had it, teaching them how to understand when someone is hearing voices. Why do we react differently from us? Because you're talking to one person in front of you, and in the back of your head, someone is talking, and then sometimes you turn around and ask them what is saying. Did you, stop talking to me? And the person in front of you wonder, this person crazy, this person mad, but that person is actually living the experience of hearing something. Someone is actually talking back to them, and sometimes they will actually talk back to the person. We are not experiencing it because we're not hearing the voice, but that person is hearing the voice. And sometimes that voice can be loud enough and push you to the point where you actually, especially since the voice is so internal, push you to the point of committing heinous crimes. Because in your mind, it's either the will of God, or this person is about to hurt you. You can stand, someone with that type of disorder can stand before someone, and in their mind, that person is about to kill me. So I have to defend myself. Or the voice is saying, that person's about to hurt you. React faster than this individual, and blade will come out for no reason at all, and people want to know what's going on, because internally this person is being pushed, or the person is hearing certain things with them. So that particular case, several things could have triggered that. Number one, when you go through a traumatic event, if you ever rape, and there's a certain cologne on that individual, if you ever smell it again, you would relive it again. And all of a sudden, you start to protect yourself and run and scream and so forth. If the person had beard or anything like that, and you see someone who would have resembled that individual, that can also trigger it off. Colors can also trigger off certain things. In terms of the color, or the rapist color, or someone who had abused me color and so forth. All these factors, flowers can actually trigger off these things. So there's a number of environmental factors that can trigger someone on the spot to commit a heinous crime, and then we are left scratching our head. I know this person. Why this person did this?
Can the person generally be a functional, normal-looking, normal, active individual holding down a job with a family or so, and be suffering with these sort of things?
Yes.
So they could seem normal?
Yes. In most cases, they are normal until
the trigger occurs.
Yeah, and we have a saying that it takes one straw to break the camel back. Yeah, and temperament has a lot to do with it. You find people who are more melancholic, they take on more. They're to themselves. They already have mood swings. Anyhow, they're taking on things and whatnot. And that temperament type is very. It's the richest of all, because they're very analytical. They can think, they can develop things. Their mind would race about how to develop and how to build things, the technology and whatnot. And with all of that coming in onto them, if they don't find a way to more or less to get it out, you find internally they can start having a lot of issues and so forth, And by nature, they are introverts, so they don't talk much or deal much with people and so forth. So they are naturally that way, and then something probably would happen to them. Explosive. So some cases, and I say in some we have criminals who think about it and go and do it, But there are some cases that there's internal turmoil that would have caused some of these issues to take place.
Now you said most of the murders and so on in the past few years you would have been involved as a clinical psychologist attached. What percentage, in your view, wouldn't have the figures directly in front of you, but roughly what percentage of the murders that would have taken place do you think can be associated to mental health issues?
85%.
Wow.
That's a huge number.
85%. Yeah. Probably about in total all the cases I did, probably about 10 or 12 of them I didn't properly diagnose before, but majority of them, they had the signs were there, and I had to diagnose them with something at the end of it. Either explosive passive aggression, impulse control disorder, and things like impulse control disorder, they come with a number of factors. In fact, a kleptomania, he suffers from impulse and control disorder because he sees something and he only wants it, but he's just been driven and pulled just to take it. And he can only satisfy or end that type of desire when it's taken. He go on his way, and then he feels good again. Even these individual and inferior kids and so forth, there is the impulse control disorder, conduct impulse control disorder, where they are pushed towards doing these heinous acts, and only when it's done, then you have to realize that they feel better about themselves. So you'll be surprised that a lot of these criminals, they have some form of mental disorder.
But what you're actually saying to Devon and myself here is that if we early enough address the mental health concerns, we didn't say people crazy, the mental health concerns of our general population in a proper manner, that even the low crime rate we have could be lower. A lot lower, because we could stop people who would otherwise have snapped and committed a murder or committed molestation or rape or so on, that if we are able to identify those persons early enough and give them the proper treatment and follow-up, that we could reduce the crime rate that we have right now.
Yes, I believe that. Sincerely, I believe that. And why I believe that is that you have an individual who would have committed murder. They would have just go spend time in prison, come out, and they will commit murder again, because the underlying factor was never addressed with that individual.
Mm-hmm.
It never addressed with that individual. There's one particular individual who had committed a murder either in the UK or America, and he ended up chopping someone's head off here in Grenada in a bar and so forth. And
I think that's in St. Mark or somewhere there.
I was called into before the judge made a decision on sentencing and so forth, to do evaluation and to make a recommendation. And one of the first things that I realized with him is that he was suffering from schizophrenia, in that it's important for him to be seen as very important. Mm-hmm. So, when I came in, and then he was brought into the room and so forth, he was very polite, nice, and he's shocked and whatnot. In fact, it's a guy that you will love. You could see yourself drinking a beer with him, mm-hmm. Hanging out and so forth, call a friend, But if you would have used certain psychological methods to more or less to get him to see the true side of him, which I had to do, and during that time, and one of it was just disrespect him, tell him something out of the ordinary, something that and then the true nature will come up, and his face would change, not demonic, but his face would change, his disposition would change, his emotion would change. He'll become harsh and rash and so forth in some of the conversation, and so you move from someone who is so nice, and because you're giving that level of respect, and he's in control and whatnot, to moving him out and placing him in a different element, and then see a totally different individual, So after I completed that report, my recommendation was in fact, my recommendation was that he should stay in prison, because there is no, you send him on gay, you send him out, it'll happen again. And so there's no other form or way of dealing with these individuals other than kind of keeping them away from society. And it's sad to say, and they need help. But we don't have the resources, we don't have the technology, we don't have the manpower to deal with it. So what we do, we just lock them up.
But it also reminds me, because I know of a similar case in the UK with one of the individuals that was involved in the Bulger case. That's the case of the child that they brought on the train tracks and they killed the two little boys that brought him there. That one of them has reoffended. A few years ago he reoffended, was put back in jail, spent a couple of years and came out again, and has now been placed back in jail within the last month again for reoffending. The Bulger case is a case of a child that I think was about 6, that two children, the age of 10 and 11, brought that little boy, killed him, tortured him, killed him, and then left his body on the train tracks. And both of them were put in jail up until they were in their 20s or so, and then released with new identities. But one of the individuals has reoffended. They found him with child porn and pictures of torturing children and that sort of thing. Was placed back in prison, came out, and has been caught with it again within the last month. These individuals basically should be just kept within the system, should not be allowed to be out to reoffend, because there doesn't seem to be any improvement even with the treatments.
Yeah, and sometimes with the treatment they can fake improvement. Next thing you need to look at too. And
also they could, I good, I happy, I...
Yeah,
and
especially if you have someone, if you have a mental health practitioner who is not skilled in certain things, they can actually fool. And that happened once here in Grenada too. When I just came in, a report was done on one individual by someone who is not really experienced, and the report stated that the person was doing well, the person should not be in jail anymore, the person has been rehabilitated and so forth. And I said, this person committed murder, and then this person did kidnapping and so forth. I mean, we're talking about within the space of 10 years. That seems too drastic. All of a sudden, this person is so violent and what, and knowing fully well that the person wasn't really counseled or dealt with and whatnot. So I decided I'm going to pull back that report, and I'm going to see the person myself. My report was totally different. It was from the east, from the west, totally different. The person didn't change at all. In fact, what the person was doing was manipulating the young lady into thinking that he has changed, and being loving and kind and whatnot, until I used a totally different approach for that individual. Also, in terms of the question he just asked concerning if the person really changed or not, self-gratification is the problem for most of these cases. There was a need for us for our desire to be met and met immediately. It's like sex for men, and Sheldon, don't run away or twist your face up on this. I deal with these things.
Reality is reality.
Yeah, so it's easy for me to just get into.
No, reality is reality.
The thing is, for men, we it's easy for us to like something by seeing it. We are instant individual. We see a lady is looking good and so forth, and immediately we want to talk to her and so forth. I mean, we are married, but there is a need for that. And as soon as we are fulfilled sexually, you realize that great need, or we see the person again, and we can talk afterwards and make right, and because we were actually already satisfied, we're good at that gratification, and that desire was already fulfilled. So we can actually operate after that. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well, it all depends.
And your different case.
Well, no.
I'll do assessment after Devon right after.
Yeah, we're gonna do an assessment on Devon immediately at the end of the program.
I'm talking about normal human being. When we are fulfilled, somehow we are easy. We can communicate better because that desire was done. That desire, that gratification was done. That's done. But and it's similar to these individuals, but just that they act out of their norm. Their desire and the kind of thing that they want to fulfill is not within society norms.
It's a fetish.
Yes, they want to go behind the little kids. They want people to be harmed, squeezed. They want to wound and so forth. But as soon as they do these things, you realize that all of a sudden they are actually back to normal, functioning citizen and so forth, until once again there's a need for self-gratification, a need for their desires to be met, and once it's met, then they go again. And that's what happened in the home. In fact, a lot of cases that took place even in the United States and so forth, with these serial killers and so forth, they had normal family life. They were loving husbands, churchgoers and so forth, and in the nighttime or whatever, once the desire come on, once the desires came on, they would go out and they would do the heinous act, kill and whatnot. Then they go back home again. They feel nice and pretty well, and they're back home, you know. And whereas we may look at it on television and say, "Oh, that is television," it is as real as day. These individuals, they're home, they have normal, productive life, have nice job, nice car, they go to church, they're pillar in community. But when do they need to fulfill those desires? They go out, they do what they have to do, and then they feel good again, and they come back home. Grenada has not escaped from those type of people. Gratification.
So we have to start the process then of identifying what it is that people are suffering from and dealing with it. Do you think we have enough competent professionals on island to deal with a population of 100,000 people in a proper manner on these issues?
No. No.
Hey, all you send all the children and study psychology.
Yeah, no. We don't. In fact, along with myself, there was one other doctor level, Psych D, Dr. was here. And I mean, and the thing about it is, because of revenues and so forth, you know, you would have a certain lifestyle when you come back to the island to help out, and you know, you try to maintain that.
When you have a doctorate in front of your name, it's not easy. Huh?
Yeah, and you know, and then everybody's looking, seeking you after you're so busy and so forth, and there's nothing that'll come after you to take care of you at the end of the day. You know, so it was both of us at one time here, you know. Well, except for SU, that's normally it will help every now and again, but there's only so much you can do. Your professors in the school. Besides her and myself, and she left. After a while, it was just too much. You know, in fact, I started crying at one time too, because it was just too much. Seeing all of these things and whatnot, the beach stopped helping after a while. So you need more trained doctoral level psychologists to be here to kind of help, who are clinically in different forms of psychology would have studied, you know, who are clinically trained, or even forensic trained to deal with a lot of these issues and identify, you know, put together behavior plans and programs, protocols, you know, how to identify, go to the school and train teachers, and you know, and I thought we need to become more start putting more preventative methods in place instead of just being reactive when things would happen. You know, go to the school, train, sensitize the police officers and whatnot, because this batch of new recruits probably will be the first batch who actually have knowledge of mental health, how to deal with it, how to look at their own self, and why they would more portray their type of behavior on criminals and so forth, you know, because of the different type of temperament. I've been doing a lot of work with them. But before that, you know, you just train a police officer, you know, how to deal with criminals, the way how it's supposed to be dealt with, you know. So in 2018, we need to change a whole lot of things, how we our mindset, how we think and whatnot, and we just need to get on top of things. If we start using preventative method, we will do better here in Grenada.
So we do have serious challenges here, excuse me, on island when it comes to the issues of mental health. You've made several suggestions in relation to this. I see one of them has come to fruition. That's the Special Victims Unit of the Royal Grenada Police Force, Inspector Andrea Cadet and her team there with the Special Victims Unit. Are you doing work with them right now?
Yeah. A couple of yesterday, in meetings in where we have to start selecting individual to train in terms of do's, don'ts, how, you know, how to understand the dynamics of when someone is victimized and so forth. So right now I'm just like I'm a consultant, you know, because I'm not here permanently. I'm in 1 month, I'm out 1 month, you know, so it's a matter of calling and say, this is what we have going on here right now. When I come in, and I'll do some training on those areas that's most affected and so forth. So yes, I'm involved in the sex unit department.
Would you suggest as well that an assessment is done of all teachers, all police officers? Would you suggest that that is done?
Honestly, I think personality testing should be done for all civil servants before they actually hired. to make sure that it's the right type of job for them. I mean, everyone don't have to want to be a police officer or a nurse or a teacher, So I think that should be done so we can have the right people in place to do a more effective job. Yes, I strongly believe that.
One listener is asking from your assessment, would you say that signs of this disease were visible in the young age of these persons? Or would you say that most kids that show signs of causing or showing excitement towards harm or harmful acts?
Yeah, if you're showing sign towards that, where you're gratified or you're happy when you see certain type of harm or whatnot, that's a signal. Also, kids who parents more or less have bipolar, schizophrenia and whatnot, because sometimes it could be genetic as well. You want to look at them to look at their behavior and see if there is a major form, if anything's being formed early on with those things. So definitely yes, yes. I mean, I think we have a blueprint in terms of what would make a normal citizen or a normal environment. And when you see someone would digress from that type of normalcy, then you want to start, okay, why is this person doing this? What caused it? And so forth. They always cause reactive factors for certain type of behavior.
Well, what would you say? Some people say there's a new normal. 10, 15 years ago, I would have not known of any one in Grenada who could have been, as a female, who could have been classified as gay. I would not have known that in Grenada 10, 15, well, let me say 15 years ago. I would not have been able to identify that. We may have had one or two individuals everybody knew that as a male, that would have been gay, quote unquote, because these days you have so much classifications, I don't want to get into it. These days, you could point them out. You see them St. George, you see them at parties and so on. So there's a new normal.
Yeah, because we live in a changing world, a world where it's more acceptable. It's okay for them to actually,
come out in the closet.
Yeah, it's okay for them to just live. This is who I am.
Some of them burn the closet and just come out of it.
Yeah.
Growing up too, there are some women we could have identified of sort of heading towards that. We usually used to call them tomboys.
Mm-hmm.
From small growing up, they always want to be that male macho figure. And then after school and so, a couple of them that I know, I went to school with, end up being gay, basically.
Yeah.
But is it that we as a society have been, because it goes back to what I was asking about, and what the caller asked about children, and it's sort of going towards harmful acts and so. Have we as a society been desensitized to certain things over the years? Number one, starting with cable television.
Mm-hmm.
And secondly, with the explosion of the internet, whereas one can now pick up a mobile phone and they can access anything they think about. They could basically access it. Any type of pornography, any type of, I hear so, I hear so, right? But any type of
knowledge, right?
But we know that the internet, and Doc pick up his phone one time, But is it that we as a society have been desensitized to things? Because I remember in the late 1980s, yeah, I'm that old. In the late 1980s, there was this discussion in Trinidad at the point in time that we were beginning to desensitize our children, and the nation as a whole began to become desensitized to certain things. One of them being seeing, like for instance, the Ethiopian famine was taking place at that point in time. And the images were on television nearly every night until it became the new norm. People were just, whereas before you'd feel it and you say, oh gosh, I feel sorry for this person. Afterwards it's just like, oh, famine still going on there. And over the years, even like some of the gruesome crimes that we've been hearing about now before, you may have seen a photo in one of the weekly newspapers here in Grenada of a sheet covering a body. But now you're seeing live and direct everything.
Mm-hmm.
You're seeing it being broadcast on the internet, and sometimes within seconds of it happening, you're seeing it. Some of them you're seeing it live.
Mm-hmm.
All these sort of things. Are we as a society, over the past few decades, being desensitized to certain things? And is that making our children more able to look at what 10 years ago a child wouldn't have been able to stomach something like that, and now a child could stomach it? Is it that the child is mentally damaged, or is it that we as a society are mentally damaged and changing?
Here's the thing. Technology and the advancement of technology has done well for us in making life easier for us. But in more ways, it actually caused more destruction for us, the family life and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, I have two 8-year-old, a boy and a girl, and during at that age, I want to be outside riding bike and pelting stone, pitching and so forth. I didn't grow up rich. I grew up poor. Education changed my lifestyle. So I changed. So their lifestyle is totally different. They have whatever they want.
Mm-hmm.
They have bicycles and they have go-karts and so forth. And here it is that those things are in the garage, and there was just dust and collecting cobweb and so forth. As a child, if I had these things, I would have been so happy to go outside. All they want to do is stay inside the house.
Mm-hmm.
And be on the laptop or on the iPad and just on these things. Totally different.
So it's the reverse of when we were small.
Yeah.
When we were young, the thing was they want you to come home. They want you to come and spend time in the house and pick up a book or something. They want you in the house. Which time you're in the river catching crayfish,
Mm-hmm.
or in the mangrove going behind crab, or hunting manikou, or using the slingshot and shoot a dove, or flying kite, or going after fruits. I don't know if people say hunt mango, because like if mango does hide and duck and all kind of thing. I hear people say they go in and hunt mango. I never see a mango duck and hide yet. But anyway, is it that change itself has affected us as a people?
Yeah,
as I said, the new normal.
And that's what I was talking about, the technology. We get information at the speed of light. We see it. We see it on television. We hear it on the radio. As soon as it happens, we hear it and we see it. And someone with a psychotic or someone with a mental disorder who can actually have access to it and see those things, they can actually chip off based on what they see. Versus, long ago, we didn't see certain things. For instance, some years ago, Coca-Cola had to remove our advertisement commercial from the airway, because the commercial was written by hypnosis. They wrote it and whatnot, and when you look at it, as soon as you finish looking at it, you move towards buying Coca-Cola. Yeah. So when the psychologists and they saw it and so forth, they complained and they said that this commercial was written by a professional who understand the system of hypnotizing people, and this is what happened. So that's actually they had to remove it immediately or from the airway. And what's happening right now is that as a society we are being hypnotized by what we see on television. We're hypnotized by for instance, I would turn on the television, the CNN, when I'm in Georgia, and most of the day I just want to see what Trump is doing today. What am I going to laugh at? I'm hypnotized by because that's all CNN is playing these days.
Mm-hmm.
They just own him because he came against them. And that's the worst thing could have done. They are just attacking him and whatnot. So right now, as people of this world, we are hypnotized by things we see on television, and we are drawn towards it and whatnot. And that can actually destroy our society. For instance, if you go on a table and I'm eating with my kids and whatnot, they want to eat fast because they want to go back up and get it. I am on my phone. My wife is on her phone and so forth. So there's no in fact, it would be better for us to text each other while on the table. We talk more from an angle. So we live in a totally different society from back then. And because of that, the challenges are different. They are real. And that's what I'm saying. If we don't have trained individual who's up to date with what's taking place and up to date with solutions and preventive methods, then we will just be a dying society.
Doc, what advice you can give to parents, right, who are in a position right now, who may not be technology exposed and much educated as the young
technical savvy?
Yes, and so right, and they're watching their children. They have to give up to the demands of the children to get either a laptop or whatever. For use and so. But for those who cannot or who have no idea much as to the whole techno, what advice you can give them to cope, to help cope in understanding the children, right? And so what they are going through now as to compare with what they used to be going through and what they had exposed.
Yeah. Now, that's a difficult question to answer, and let me tell you why. If you are, as a parent, haven't been exposed to certain things, it's difficult for you to teach. It's difficult for you to manage. It's difficult for you to supervise because you don't know what to supervise or what to look for. So one of the first things that parents will need to do, they need to come up to date with society, and you know, and that's one of the biggest issue, especially in a country where scarcity and you know and the majority of the people are poor and so forth. They don't, and your kids will go out, they will get these systems, these little phone, these little smartphone that they could use and so forth. And in fact, one time I bought my mom for her birthday a Samsung smartphone and so forth, and I came back, I saw the phone right there, and she back with the whole thing in there and whatnot. She see that's too much of a thing for her.
Yeah.
But as soon as we spend some time with her and show her how to do that, that phone is the best thing. She have all kind of video of this and that and whatnot. She on WhatsApp and whatnot. Problem and she able to text and whatnot, you know, because time was taken off to understand it. But it's difficult for us as a people, and it's a psychological blockage for us. You know, if it's not broken, why fix it? This is how I learn how to do things, and this is how we will actually continue. For instance, I went to my kids' an MPTA meeting in Georgia, and the teacher was showing us as parents new ways of doing multiplication and so forth. And I was like, why did they show us that? I mean, I know my times tables. I know how to multiply this by this and whatnot, how to get back and whatnot. And she was explaining, you know, we had a whole way of doing it, you know, and it didn't make sense, you know. We couldn't explain it. We just know how to do it because it was drilled into us how to do it. And then she said, "Touch, you need different methods of how our kids are learning." And the reason why they had to do it is because when the kids are home, we have to continue with the education, but continue with that type of education, the new system that they have in place, versus what we once learned and what we are accustomed in doing. So now I have to now relearn how to do maths again because of newness of it. So to answer your question, what parents need to do, they need to update themselves. They need to stop thinking that, you know what, the way how I did things, because every 5 years you'll realize drastic changes will take place within society. Every 5 years, major changes will take place in society. If you feel that the rights for gay right now is one of the biggest hot thing right now all over the world right now, if you feel that is a big issue in the next 5 years, that will not be an issue anymore because you'll be given rights and so forth, simply because of the world power who say yes, it's okay, and then another severe issue will come up, and then we will say okay. I don't know how long again this world will last based on what we are seeing. So updating oneself so we can supervise the problem, we can analyze the problem, we can give recommendation for it. We need to update ourselves with technology, update ourselves with the phone and whatnot, know what to look for, understand what what the World Wide Web is all about, how to get information on it, and then we can supervise our kids by blocking certain things, information from on the computer and so forth. We need to update ourselves. That's the best way of dealing with that.
Let me ask you a question then, Doc, and it leads back to some of what we were speaking about before and what Devon would have raised a while ago. You said that traumatic events in the past could trigger certain things in individuals. Even without a traumatic event, but being exposed to things on a constant basis through social media, etc., can that cause a person to go a particular direction?
Yes.
Even without the trigger, having been raped or having seen a murder or something before, but seeing these things online over a period of time, that can trigger a person.
It can actually cause.
But would there be an underlying mental issue there beforehand that would make that person more? Yeah.
I think one's temperament and how they analyze things and how they take on things would actually be more of a concern to me. If you're one that you become very emotional based on what you see, it's very easy for you to take it on. Go and sleep. You go to sleep thinking about it, and you know, especially if you're, and it can actually cause you to be emotional wreck. You know, so those would be my major concerns in terms of watching these things on television. In fact, most times in these newscasters would advise you immediately before they show certain things that the scenes that you're about to see could be considered very violent, and viewers' discretion is advised. In other words, they're saying, listen, if you are a certain type of person, this is not what we want you to see, because it will affect you. It will affect you. For instance, a child being murdered and it's being shown live on television. I mean, how would you react to that? I mean, even as a man, well, we know how the ladies would react. Even as a man, how will you react to seeing that and seeing it over and over again? It's quite easy for you when you hear that someone is in front of a little boy. It's quite easy for you because you have seen it, and you have seen the brutality of it on television, the blood, and how all these the families are torn apart and crying. It's so easy for you, if you hear it right in your back door, someone did something, for you to go and just deal with it one time, because you have been so decentralized towards it and seen it over and over and over again, that you can react differently when you hear that something actually happened. So in that way, it can affect you, because it'll make you very reactive, and sometimes don't even think correctly, because you have seen it so many times, you have been hurt by it, you just react towards it.
And I'm asking that question, I'm going down a particular path here. We have been hearing of increased numbers of reported sexual crimes in the state of Grenada.
Yes.
And let me make that statement again, because I am being very careful what I say and how I say it. We have been having increased numbers of reported sexual crimes here in Grenada. In your view, is it a case of we have an increased number in the reported cases, or we've always had this amount, and due to work of people like, for instance, we had Michelle Alexander in here last time, and a lot of people have come out and said what took place because of her, and that educational program that the Ministry of Social Development has been doing around the island, letting people, it's okay to tell, this is the number you can call. I think the number for the Special Victims Unit is 400, is it?
I think so.
I have to confirm the number.
It's 400,
I believe.
Okay.
So that we want you all to know, so that you can call and so on. But is it an increase?
400. Yes.
400. Is it an increase in just the number reported, or are a lot more of it taking place? And does that have a direct correlation to people's access to the wrong type of information? And I'll use an example here. 1989. You have to see some sort of pornography. You would have to, I'm talking from what I hear, I was a child back then. You have to go to, you have to go to one of the video clubs. I think people in their teens may not know what we're talking about when we say a video club. But there used to be a place like a shop, and you go there and you used to rent what they call a video cassette. Or they might even know it's a video cassette, but a VHS or a Betamax.
Betamax.
So you go and you rent a video cassette. But they had two sets. They had the ones above the counter, and they had the ones below the counter.
Underneath the counter.
So in order to do that, you'd have had to be a certain age. You'd have had to have certain access. And you would go to a video club. And even though they were illegal, you get that. Or some relative come in and they bring one for you. And guys used to share, women used to share between each other. But outside of that, it's a magazine. And some of them GBSS fellas could tell you that they used to share the pages of the magazine. Somebody have a page. No, I'm saying this thing is a serious thing, because it's a serious point we're trying to make here. Guys used to share the page of the pornographic magazine. This one or two page for today, and he pass it to the next one or two page, and so.
Playboy.
But it's gotten to the stage now, you don't need to go to a video club and spend any money to rent anything.
Nope.
You don't need to wait until your partner brother come back from New York and he have a two magazine, a Penthouse and a Playboy, so that they could share. I don't know the name of any other one. That's what I know.
Hustler.
You seem to be very well informed, Doc.
Have to be. I have a reason. I have an excuse.
Exactly.
It's no longer to that stage. Within seconds, a person can find pornography. Is that having an effect on some people and causing them to do things that they otherwise may not have been triggered to do? Is that causing the trigger in a lot of persons? Access to pornography. Easy access to pornography, and basically anything you could think about. Just a few keystrokes away.
I don't want to say yes or no, and I will explain why. Because because of the access to it, you may find that people, instead of going out and committing a crime or raping someone or in front of a young girl because of the desire, you know, you might find they may quicker go on the internet and pull it up, and they can probably find a level of gratification right there. The desire can be actually fulfilled by looking at it on the internet versus actually going and committing a crime. So that's why it's kind of hard to say if it's yes or no, if it's actually causing an increase in that type of behavior or that kind of type of trigger to actually go there. Because the thing about it is, if it's in you already, it's in you. If that type of behavior is in you, in terms of, you know, to look at the young kids and then feed them or whatnot, it's already in you. So you know, if you have a different outlet to deal with it, you know, some may actually choose that outlet versus actually going and actually committing crime. And in terms of the first question, in terms of if there is an increase in reporting or increase in the act of itself, I believe there is an increase in reporting. And this is why I believe that. With technology right now and with information being sent out with this social development who is pushing things, therefore you realize people are more educated as to what abuse is. Because long ago, abuse was done, but it wasn't identified or seen as abuse. A man in the front with a 14-year-old, 13-year-old wasn't seen as abuse by the parents or by the child, because consent was given. You know, in their mind, once consent is given, it's fine. But because of information is being gone out and even in the school, and that's why I'm saying we need to start in the school system, because information is being given of what abuse is, the different form of abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, psychological abuse, and neglect and so forth. Because they are more, they have more information. You realize now, as soon as it happens to them, they say, wait a minute, this is against the law. You know, this person just violated me, and so it's easy for them now to complain or pick up the phone and call the police. So more reporting is taking place right now, simply because people are more educated as to their rights and what would summarize abuse. Yeah. So that's what it is right now. So more and listen, for years people have gotten away here in Grenada and a lot of the Caribbean region for years with abuse of children and the spouse and so forth, for years, because it was considered norm. It's no longer considered norm right now. They know exactly the abuse now, and they will report it.
The parent, the female that knows that her child is being abused by the landlord and continues to allow her child to be abused by the landlord, is that more of a mental issue than an economic one?
I think it's more economic than mental.
They're just bad mind.
It's a matter of, you know what, at least we getting to eat. You know, we getting something out of this. And that's what I think it is. And the reason why I can say that is because I have dealt with several cases like that before, where parents are fully aware that what's been done is incorrect, it's against the law, but they allow it to happen simply because they were getting something out of it, especially with a mother with 5 and 6 kids to feed and whatnot. And you have one individual, one man who's shelling money out and helping.
The sugar daddy.
Yeah,
He ain't no sugar daddy. He's a criminal.
And because he's in friend with the woman's daughter and so forth. She's fully aware of that. So it's a matter of, okay, do I continue this or do I cause my other to go hungry? And this is the reporting part of it. The reporting part of it, that child, because the parent not so much would say yes, but she would give consent by not doing anything about it. She will consent it by remaining silent on it. And that child then now will go to school. And because she would have heard about what abuse is, what sexual abuse is and so forth, she would then report it to a teacher. And then that would be reported to the police. So that's what I'm saying, you know, is more reporting is taking place because of more education. We have more educated people, more educated young people who don't, because I mean the child who's been abused, it's something that will hurt her and traumatize her for the rest of her life. You know, traumatize her for the rest of her life, and that's what a lot of people don't know. This is the and then when I have dealt with certain cases here in Grenada that would have shocked me to the core, coming from the United States, shocked me to the core in terms of the brutality of some of these sexual act, you know, a 7-year-old little boy and whatnot. And when I had a little boy on my chair, trying to deal with some of the issues that he's going through. There's something in me that is always winding me up. I wanted to just go and go to the prison when they were holding this guy in the hospital. I mean, you see this little boy, 7-year-old, and because the mother is in need of help and so forth, you take advantage of that situation. It's
just like you want to reactivate the gallows in the prisons, and you personally want to pull the lever.
Yeah, you could be very reactive to those things. Same thing like when you see it on the television all the time and on the internet and you see all this thing. You could become very reactive. Next thing you know, you have a murder case. And I had to come and see you in prison and so forth, and make recommendation. And then you could tell me that I get vexed because I see certain things on TV.
Yes, indeed. And folks, if you want to call in, I know many of you online are listening from Grenada. You can call 440-7377 and Devon give us the number.
347-329-3101.
Yes, roughly we have about a half hour again, Doc. And we have been discussing various psychological issues and so here on the island. And we've also, myself, I've come to the realization today that there's quite a bit of work to be done in relation to psychology and mental health here in Grenada. I have a friend, Trevor, who always says that. He's out there in the US, and he always says the issue of mental health in Grenada needs to be addressed. It's not being addressed properly.
Yeah.
So
true.
How many individuals have their different types of mental issues or psychosis driven by substance abuse? Is it a fair amount of people that is driven by substance abuse and so on?
Yes.
And does that heighten it? Does that make it more?
Yeah.
And is it according to the substance? Because some people have the belief that marijuana actually relaxes you. It doesn't get vexed when you smoke marijuana, and you could just be relaxed and you could be okay, and you wouldn't be a violent person. But that if you drink alcohol, you're going to just lose your temper and you want to fight and that sort of thing. But before we jump into that, I think we have a caller online.
Good morning and welcome. Good morning.
Hello?
Hello,
Yes,
good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Devon.
Yes, good morning to you.
Morning, Sheldon. Morning to you, guest. I'm sorry, I didn't get the name of your
Dr.
the
Fleming.
guest because I joined the program a little late.
Okay.
However, I'm so happy to know that we actually have somebody in Grenada who could actually help with a lot of the cases that we have in Grenada. Another thing too, Devon, when I listen to how the doctors speak, right, there's a lot of things that I think our problem in Grenada is like, something happened. A lot of people are fearful to come out to say certain things in Grenada simply because of the backlash that they would get, instead of looking at it as, it is good for me and my family, and maybe because of your experiences or whatever you go through, it might be helpful to somebody else to be able to come out to say, okay, this happened to me or whatever the case. And another thing too is because of threats, right? A lot of people stay silent because of being fearful, and as one of the things you say is like, you have a parent that has 7 children. She not working, even though she get a little job, is like a 2 days or 3 days. Sometimes you get a little help from the government ever so often or whatever it is. But how substantial is that for you to have a living? So a lot of it has to do with, I would say, with economically wise and social. Majority of it I would say is the social depression. That's just my point of view today.
All right. Thank you very much, my dear.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Say you, Doc.
Well, Doc, yes, I was just asking you a question. For some reason, the question jumped out my head that I was asking just before the caller called, because I'm just seeing. When you see somebody, one of your friends, with that sort of thing on social media, I know it's a cry for help, and I know a bit of the background, so we'll talk about that one as soon as we're done. And so there are issues. There are issues that we have to find ways of addressing. I'm still trying to remember what the question was I was asking just before the guest came on, Still trying to remember exactly what it is. But for those of you out there, 440-7377, that's 440-7377. Yeah. And so we do have a significant problem here in Grenada. Is it just Grenada or is it a region-wide thing?
It's a region wide.
From what you've been hearing from your colleagues.
It's region wide, but I think in Caribbean Islands where scarcity is not so much of an issue, you tend to have more resources to deal with the issue, and I think that's the biggest problem. It's not that the government don't want to effectively deal with it, but when you have to look at a country where you have to provide food and free education and free medicine and so forth, you have to now decide where to actually place those resources that you have, limited resources that you have, so that more people can actually benefit from it. And I think that's a problem in countries like Grenada, and scarcity will always be the problem. But what I'm happy about is that you have people who are Grenadians who are coming back, who when abroad they study and so forth, they can do well for themselves without having to be paid in Grenada here. They can come and help, give some support and assistance and so forth. And so we have people who are coming back in and who's doing that. The only problem I realize, and I probably would have been one of the casualty of that, is that, because of your vast knowledge and how to get things done and whatnot, you find because things are done a certain way here in Grenada, you tend to get burned out quite easily. Not only burn out quite easily, but people start to criticize because you came from the States and this and whatnot, you feel better than us and whatnot. And after a while, you can, what, I want to help, but the same people are trying to help. The same one who probably putting a licking at me. Let me go back to my nice life.
Good morning and welcome. Good morning. Hello.
It seems as though we lost that. It seems as though we lost that caller. Yes, folks. Devon, what's the number again?
The 43742.
4407377 and
437 3293101.
Devon, you ever heard about a drug called Prevagen? It's a new drug to help increase your memory. It's a supplement by 22%. Yeah, that's going to help a lot.
I think I need to try that one.
Can I obtain that here?
No. Well, you can order it.
Let me ask you a question, because this happens daily. It happened to me just a couple seconds ago. It happens daily to us. Many of us see. Okay, let me stick it and let me call and we write down what I was going to ask so I don't forget this time. Go right ahead.
Good morning and welcome. Hello, good morning.
Okay, Devon. Hi, Devon.
Yes, my dear, good morning.
Yes.
Okay, it's me again. Another point, as your guest said something, and I just remember that's one of the things I had to mention. He's very correct in saying that sometimes you try to help, and then when you try to help, the same people turn around, and because it's like I want you to help, but this is how I want you to help. And they would want to tell you how to do things instead of you doing things for their betterment. But because they're at a standstill as to they do not have control of what it is, they push it out. And some people push out certain ideas because it doesn't make themselves look good. You understand? And another thing again too is that in Grenada society we have a mentality, and I go back to this saying, I may get backlash for it, but it's the truth. Some parents, their priority is in the wrong place, right? You would see some of them, yes, I'm not saying you don't have to look good or whatever it is, but you would see some of the people that you tend to say are poor, and I say poor in inverted commas because in most cases that is how we have it in Grenada. You say poor because you be able to dress, you have the latest style, you have the latest this, you have the latest that. I'm not saying you have to go out of your way. If somebody offer you something, you would say, okay, you take it or not, whatever. But I would say, if you are poor and you know you have your kids to feed, and somebody offer you something, would you say, okay, like you have a friend in the United States or wherever it is, and the person would say, okay, what to bring for you? I'll bring a t-shirt for you or whatever. You say, okay, you know what, girl? Really and truly, thanks for the clothes, but I prefer if you would send something for my kids because, look, we don't have something or we don't have whatever. These days, people have a tendency to ask for material things instead of they asking things for what they need instead of what they want. And I think that is one of our major problems in Grenada because we consider ourselves to be poor but are we really poor? Okay, that's
Right.
my contribution.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
The thing is, economics wise, some of us call ourselves poor, but the sneakers you're wearing cost about 500, and when it have all the all-inclusive fits for $400 and $500
Yeah,
around carnival time,
there.
you're in not one, you're in all, in the all-inclusive section, and then you play mass with the most pretty costume. Yeah, play mass. I have no problem with that if you can afford it, but don't call yourself poor after. Yeah, don't call yourself poor.
Priority and management of the resources you have. I think that some of us need to have our priorities straight, and so and then manage the scarce resources that we have, and then most of us will be all right. I think.
Yeah, and one of the listeners, thank you so very much, my friend, would have reminded me of the question I was asking: substance abuse,
Yes.
and its causative effects on either bringing about these different mental challenges, or if it heightens it. What, as we said, marijuana. I was mentioning marijuana. Some people see it as one of the things that kind of relax a person. They cool, they smoke their weed, and they're good and they cool, and it does never cause a person to commit a crime, except that having it in your possession or using it as a crime. Or alcohol as the bad one. Alcohol as the one that does make you want to run up and down and fight and all kind of, well, most people, that kind of thing. And cocaine, well, forget that one. So, substance abuse. How has that played into what is taking place in Grenada right now, and what can be done?
Well, alcoholism and substance like cocaine and crack, all these things. If you take it, I mean, if you call it alcoholic, it is a disorder. And what these things do is that it changes the whole your biological makeup, your thinking, how you process information. You process information if you use things like cocaine and alcohol at a slower pace. That's why it's easy for you to get in an accident if you're driving under the influence, because your reflective time would slow down and so forth. So even in terms of how you deal with certain things, someone is talking to you and you're hearing something that's totally different because you did not comprehend exactly what the person is saying, so you become very assaultive to the person. One guy who was actually drinking and he fought that tree whole night down in the country. I mean, and I don't know.
Fight a tree?
Yeah, and the tree was hitting him back a couple of times, so yeah, and he get up in the morning instead of sleeping next to the tree, all his fists and so forth, and then they brought him to me, and and what he realized happening is that he had a level of psychosis, and because the length of time he would have used the alcohol, you have those who on crack and so forth, and what it does, it kind of dulls the senses and so forth. So reaction time, reflective time, concentration time, reasoning time, all these things are actually affected by that. And if it's affected by that, and you already have some form of mental stability, just imagine how you will actually react to that.
Well, I remember being younger and knowing of an individual using crack. You used to see a green man suddenly appear every time he used it. And he used to be running down this green man stoning him. Every now and again he say, "Hey, you think you'll hold me today?" And you're running down this green man. Nobody else could see it but him.
Yeah, I have living proof of that from my old eldest brother. He lives in Trinidad and he has been on crack for a while. And before he went on that, he was so productive. He was like my hero. He can take apart any machine and fix it back with his hand and so forth, cars and bike and whatnot. And he got into it, and he's now, and was never diagnosed with that before. He grew up quite normal. He's now diagnosed with schizophrenia. I mean, he would just start to talk about things, and the police came and bring him $1 million, and they came and took it back, and they came on his land, and he had all his money here, and he's supposed to go and meet with the private, and he will just talk about all the other things, and it's always heightened when he used crack. Cocaine, and that's his drug of choice. So yes,
very familiar. Like somebody that I know who says that they got an award from the Queen and they have a couple $1 million to collect and so on, and same thing with the Prime Minister kind of thing.
Well, there's one individual I was treating, and what he was explaining to me is that the Queen is his aunt, He's in prison right now. Queen is his aunt. In fact, they asked me to do a warrior to assess him out right now because they want to release him. The Queen is his aunt, and she's gonna come very soon and get him out of prison and so forth. And in fact, when he came into the room, he expected me was to stand up and bow before him, I mean, because he's royalty and what. And when I didn't, he kind of disciplined me for that. You know, I took the discipline because he said he's royalty. So I mean, I can't go against the guy. You know, but for years he had used these hard drugs. I know it have totally affected him, and it altered his mind, altered his way of thinking, and so forth. So he believes. So yes, these substance abuse will actually increase and actually cause more danger to someone who already susceptible to this disorder.
Let me zero in on the marijuana now, because there is this general belief by many people that marijuana is okay, that it doesn't cause any sort of psychosis or anything like that. In fact, all it does is relax you and make you hungry. What have you picked up in your studies with marijuana users?
Yeah.
Or is it a case of different folks or different strokes? Certain people that affect you one way, different people that affect you next way.
And that's my belief in it. I also believe that marijuana itself, as a herb, it has more benefits. It has more benefits than against it. If used correctly in the right way, I think it could benefit us even here in Grenada more than anything else. In fact, at one time I remember most of the cases that was coming before the chief magistrate was marijuana, you know, a joint here and whatnot, and packing up the jail with all these with that joint and whatnot. Yeah, it's a waste of time. And in fact, at one time I understood, and I said I understood that some of these prisoners were actually planting this stuff and getting the stuff right up in the prison, and we were sentenced to. I mean, when you look at the prison, I mean, I spent a lot of time up there. I mean, they have the garden and so forth there, you know. So one time I make a recommendation, I think let's legalize it. I mean, that's you know, you put certain bans in terms of the amount, but I mean, you know, one joint or whatnot. I mean, it won't cause the hype of what you have out there that you'll do this and do that from studies and whatnot. Right?
The problem is when it's combined in a lot of instances with other things.
Mm-hmm.
A person who already has underlying mental issues or another substance, because in dealing with a lot of the young guys who found themselves with matters before the court for chopping and stabbing and fighting, that sort of thing, a lot of instances the story starts up, me and my brother and them, we were hanging out and we were taking a smoke and drinking a Guinness and two and playing some music, and then I didn't really know what happened, but this ended up in that situation. So the combination of things, and
also the abuse of it. I mean, when you start talking about 7 and 8 and 9 during the day and so forth, you start talking about you become very abusive to it, and you become a slave to it. You know, you need it in your system, you know. And that's the thing about it. They say moderate use of the thing that's good for you, and let's stay away from the thing that actually will cause you harm. But when you start to take 7 and 8 and joint and whatnot, and that's all you get up in the morning, is the only thing you start thinking about, then you need to start addressing that.
Okay, and folks, we're speaking with Dr. Jason Fleming. Yeah, he's a clinical psychologist, does a lot of work with the Royal Grenada Police Force and with different businesses, etc. here in Grenada. So give them your number if a business wants to have an assessment done to make sure nobody on the staff ain't going and go, as they say, postal on the staff and so on. Give them your number that they could contact you, or you could put them on to somebody they could speak to.
Yes, my local number here in Grenada is 533-7087, 533-7087, and in the States it's 718-288-4161, 718-288-4161. And as you mentioned, concerning the Royal Grenada Police Service, you know, I know we almost have to conclude. But I mean, I want to one more time say that I think they are going in the right direction right now, in terms of and you're going to see, you know, the citizen Grenada, you're going to see an improvement in terms of the police attitude And when the police, police are being centralized to their own needs, their own desire, to understand themselves, why they react when someone is abusive and they're trying to help someone, in terms of the training that's taking place, in terms of the new units and whatnot. Commissioner Mr. Martin is very much involved in it. He's young, so he's busybody, and he gets getting things done. And I think he has a group of solid senior officers behind him. One of them being Terrence Noel, who is in charge of SSU. He too is always asking for innovation and new ways of training his guys for RWU. And and RWU, they have a very good ratings right now in terms of how they deal with things and how they respond to things and whatnot under his command. So I think right now, as it is, one of the best thing that the Public Service Commission chairman at that time did was to put in someone who can embrace the past to the present, the young with the old, and let's bring everything together and let's find a pathway, because we have to change how we do a lot of things. We have to change.
Can't be beat and arrest police.
No, not anymore.
The days for that long gone.
It's done. So he made sure this new group of recruits that right now in the school, that they are being psychologically trained to the own, understanding them own self, because they have a lot of police officers who don't even know themselves. They don't, and yet still they want to police people and abuse, and they become very abusive. And for them, it's not abuse, because to themselves they're doing their job. So right now he's putting together the island-wide training for all the police officers and so forth. Even in terms of issuing of guns and so forth. He's looking into making changes to that as well. Whereas you find that people are now have to go through a psychological assessment before they're given a gun versus a medical. Because one of the things is, you'll give someone someone will get a handgun, a license for a gun, and the requirement would be to have a medical. If I have AIDS or cancer and whatnot, that does not disqualify me from having a gun. Mental health would disqualify me, because mentally, if I'm not stable, I'll take the gun and I'll shoot somebody. So all those things he's looking at right now, I'm making changes and whatnot. So I'm very hopeful of what's about to take place in Grenada. I'm very, very, very much hopeful.
Let me ask the question I was going to ask before somebody reminded me of the question that I had forgotten to ask. So, online, social media, we often see cries for help. How does one address that? I came upon a situation recently where there's an individual that was going through a bout of depression. Maybe one or two close friends knew about it, but you had certain people just decided that they wanted to seem as the ones who know everything about it, so they started talking all over the place. They're going through depression, and you don't know they're going through that, and they just started spreading it that this person is going through depression all over. What is the approach when you see that cry for help? When you see the person saying, I feel like committing suicide. When you see the person saying, I've been cutting myself. How do I, as a friend, start the process, and what should be done?
Levels of risk factors should be evaluated almost immediately, especially if it involves cutting off oneself. It's not just a cry for help anymore, but it's a statement stating that this is about to take place. It's going down. Certain cry for help would be, you probably take more tablets than you're supposed to take, knowing fully well that probably make you sleep or whatnot, or that can be dealt with. In fact, one of the first things I do assessment called it's called a scale psych assessment, where I actually determine what level the person is on, and if the person is playing games or the person is. And the truth about it is, most of the cases of suicide here I've dealt with in Grenada, it was actually cry for help. They cry for help. I'm going to take my life based on that. So if you are a friend of someone who is talking about suicide and whatnot, the first thing you want to do is pick up the phone, start having a conversation, and in the conversation try to determine what's really taking place. If it's serious, if the person not serious or not. After that phone conversation, the next thing I would suggest is that meet the person one-to-one, because it's one thing to talk to someone on the phone, but it's one thing to be actually engaged in this person. Call the person. Let's go have lunch or have dinner. Whatnot. Let's talk. And most times, if you're able to get a person to open up, discuss some of the issues and so forth at hand, you'd realize that the risk of suicide would actually come down. In fact, I do seminars at time where I train mostly ladies. They want to deal with some of the pinned up acts, and people come to my office in New York, pay nice, good money, pay 150 US a session, which is about 45 minutes and so forth. And afterwards, and I'll tell them simple things, how to deal with some of their, behavior and how they're thinking. I will give them a pillow in my office and tell them just punch, continue punching. They'll sweat and whatnot. They feel better, and they say, I don't know what you did, doc, but here's your 150. They got away. Next one come in and punch. You can actually do some of those things in your home just to get rid of some of this pent up anger. Same thing with those who are thinking about committing suicide. If you can get a person to talk and to expunge himself, from all the hurt and things with this growing up, they're hurting, they have issues, and some of them they just need a voice, someone to listen to hear them, and then based on the assessment of what the person is saying, then look, trying to get professional help for the individual. Call someone. And if everything is going to be severe, don't let the person go home. Call authority. This person is about to commit suicide, and I spoke to this person, and I don't feel comfortable with it. I think this person is in need of help right now. Come and see this person.
But what about broadcasting? You know that the person is going through depression, but you want to broadcast it. You broadcast it all over the place.
Never do that. There was a particular case within the police service that I had to deal with, and it became a Facebook phenomenon. It's all over Facebook and so forth. And that of itself caused my work to be harder, because the person was so embarrassed by it that taking their life became easier, simply because they prefer to take their life than to deal with the embarrassment of everybody talking about them and so forth. And so that's one of the worst things that can actually happen. If someone is willing to confide in you and say, listen, this is all going on with me, I'm taking my life and so forth, be a friend to that individual and deal with it. You're the only person should go to this person until you realize additional help is needed, and deal with it. Never broadcast someone who's already at a broken level right now. The spirit is broken, and they broadcast it. It only makes things worse for that individual.
Okay. And I hope many of you online are taking note of that, because I know pretty recently there was a situation like that, and I was saying certain things online to try and diffuse the thing, instead of people knowing what was going on and everybody, because the individual basically turned off their phone and afterwards they just closed their account, because like certain people were saying things all over there and everybody spreading. You saw the cries for help and you knew what was taking place, but you wouldn't go out there and say this is what the person is going through and so on, because then their phone started, they just turn off their phone and they just close their account and different things like that. So I wanted to know if that's the proper approach. If the proper approach is more to try and contact the person directly, speak to the person, but don't go broadcasting to tell everybody, all Tom, Dick and Harry, well, this is what the person going through and they have a problem here and that sort of thing. Especially
if the person reached out to you, is because they would have seen you in a different kind of light. You see you as someone they can talk with and so forth. People who are actually thinking about committing suicide and things like that, they wouldn't reach out to someone who would make them feel bad or feel worse. So if you're that person who a suicidal individual is reaching out to, pay keen attention to the body language, to what is being said, how it's being said, and so forth. All those are keys to analyze the risk factors as to how severe it is. Or if there's somebody who just needs someone to hear and whatnot, never broadcast it. Never broadcast it, because all you will do is make the situation, probably a small situation, a situation where someone is crying for help or attention, make it worse, and then you really put the person in a suicidal state.
Okay. All right. I don't know if anyone has any final questions. Anybody wants to call with any final questions? This is the last time we'll have Doc on the studio for a little while, because I know he has to go, and then he'll be back. He come in and listen a little parang, maybe eat a 2 piece of you don't eat ham, he might eat ham. Yeah, eat a 2 piece of salt ham and that kind of thing, and so on. And because even that, Doc, parang in itself is not easy, because some people, after you hear a parang sing on you, you don't want to show your face in public for a while, eh? Yeah, I know some people, you had a 2 and pompolumps, right? Some people, when you get a parang sing on you, you don't wanna show yourself for a little while because you're ashamed. Yeah.
Parang is one of the things that, I don't know, it's like a weapon that has been used around Christmas time Kids of people.
It's not easy now, man. If you have parang on your days like go teach you,
Yeah,
you can't grow again. Yes, indeed. Doc, any final words to the general public out there? And I want you to take some time in your closing statements, especially to address parents out there and who may have children that may be suffering from different things. And I want you to address the parents of the nation as well, especially.
Yeah, you know, I grew up as a boy. I learned that, you know, you take a community to raise a child, you know, because when the immediate parents are not around, supervision is still needed. We live parents in a changing society. We have people who like to prey upon others just because they can afford it, and because they believe that they could do it, and nothing at all will happen. So whereas I still believe in a system where we take a community or society to raise a child, just be mindful of the fact who you're allowed to be around your child. So people who you're allowed to be around your child can either break your child or make your child into a better individual. You need to evaluate some of these individuals and make sure that they make sense, or they can actually add to your child's life instead of taking away of it. Not because someone is willing to help financially or make that person the best person to be around your children. You know, so you have to be very mindful of the fact of those things. Also, in terms of that, parents, I don't want you to give up on your kids. I mean, I grew up, I probably get kicked out of all the schools I went to because I had serious behavioral issues and so forth. You know, I guess some of that would have been from growing up as you know, getting licks and so forth for no reason sometimes. You know, I don't want parents that don't give up on your kids. You know, you are the best individual because the love that you have for your child, no one else can give them that love. I want you to stick with them. I want you to continue to talk with them, continue to deal with them. You're going to discipline, but make sure when you discipline the kids that it's done in love and not out of anger, and let them know exactly why you're disciplining them. Don't ever make cause the punishment to be more than a crime. In fact, spanking and beating and whatnot is not always the best way. In fact, I don't think it's the best way at all. In fact, from my own experience, I the other day I had this special iron that you can press a button and the cord will actually come up. So this iron cord was going in and it hit my hand. And as soon as it hit my hand, I remember when I used to get the electrical cord from my mom. You know, it brought back all those memories and so forth that I still have to deal with. So the level of discipline should also always be looked at, and make sure it's balanced. Allow your kids to live a balanced life, and what's going to happen is that they will not end up in prison. They will end up having less mental problem if we teach them at a young age how to deal with stress and anxiety based on having a calmer mannerism and so forth. You realize that they will not lose it when things will go haywire. So you are the best teacher for your kids, but in order for you to teach them, you have to understand that you need to learn ways of dealing with your own past and your own issue. You know, sometimes just do some self-examination of yourself. You know, why do I react when someone says something to me? Am I more hasty? Is it because of my past and whatnot? And start to work on those things and bring yourself forward to the present. And then change your attitude, change the concept and whatnot, and then teach those things to your children. And you realize that if we all do it step by step, then Grenada will be a better place to live.
Yes, indeed. I don't think we could add anything to that. Folks, that's all the time we have for Hard Talk today. Remember, that meeting is going to be taking place in Medgar Evers College later today. We're going to endeavor, for those of you here in Grenada, we're going to endeavor to broadcast that. Hopefully the local stations will be back up by that point in time. But we're going to endeavor to broadcast that both online and on terrestrial radio for those of you here in Grenada. All right, those of you in Brooklyn, Wade, I know if you're going on broadcast that, but I prefer they go. Let everybody go.
Let everybody go. Full up Medgar Evers.
Yeah, because Prime Minister Dr. Right Honorable Keith Mitchell, Honorable Peter David, Minister of Foreign Affairs, and Minister of Health, International Trade, the Honorable Nicholas Steele, they'll all be at the Medgar Evers College this evening. All right. So we expect to have all of you heading out there and ask your questions and so on, listen to presentations, ask your questions and so on. Folks, that's all the time we have for Hard Talk today. It's been wonderful being here with you, and whatever you say and do it safe and secure. One of you speaking to and with you.
And not about you.
And we are out of here.
On Thursday, September 27th, Grenada's Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Keith Mitchell, and Foreign Affairs Minister, Honorable Peter David, are coming to Brooklyn for a special town hall meeting. All Grenadians and friends of Grenada in the diaspora are invited. Join the discussion on the state of affairs in Grenada. It's from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the auditorium of the Medgar Evers College on 1650 Bedford Avenue. Come, let your voice be heard. Thursday, September 27th, Grenada's Prime Minister and Foreign Affairs Minister in a town hall meeting at Medgar Evers College from 5 p.m.
Grenada and its dependencies not under tropical storm warning or watch from Tropical Storm Kirk. Details to this story and more in the National Report. Welcome back with the details. I'm Rakisha St. Louis. Officials at the Meteorological Office and NADMA say Grenada and its dependencies are not under tropical storm warning or watch as a result of Tropical Storm Kirk, which is expected to produce heavy rains across the northern Windward and southern Leeward Islands Thursday and much of Friday. However, they are warning that with moderate to heavy rainfall expected, there is a great chance of flooding and landslide. Here is an update from Mr. Hubert White, manager of the Met Services at the Morris Bishop International Airport.
Kirk has now maximum sustained winds of 50 miles per hour. And of course, we expect higher gusts. Very little change in strength is expected as it approaches the Windward Islands. Its present movement is 18 miles per hour, and that is towards the west. And later, a northwesterly motion is expected, and that will be up to Friday. On this track, Kirk is expected to approach Barbados and the northern Windward Islands by Thursday afternoon. Tropical storm force winds extend outward up to 150 miles per hour from the center, and that means we may expect tropical storm force winds and storm conditions in the area north of Grenada, particularly our island's dependency of Pittimatnik and Carriacou. Kirk is expected to produce rainfall amounts between 4 and 6 inches, and of course, maximum rainfall is expected in the area of Matnik and Guadeloupe, and that will be up to 10 inches. Although Grenada and its dependencies is not under watch or warning at this time, Kirk is expected to generate gusty winds, thunderstorms, and numerous thunder showers, as I said before, especially in the northern section of Grenada and Carriacou and Pittimatnik. And we may be expected by a few rain bands which can affect the south as Kirk makes its way through the islands. These conditions, or these rainy and windy conditions, may lead to landslides, street flash flooding, and other flooding in areas that are so prone, that is, low-lying areas. We are asking all residents to be cautious, especially as to the outdoor activity, and take the necessary action to protect lives and property due to conditions that may affect the northern section of Grenada, especially Pittimatnik and Carriacou.
Some of the major players in Grenada's financial sector met on Wednesday to discuss the negative impact of climate change, the specific implications for the financial sector, and possible solutions that the sector can develop to address those challenges. The workshop targeted 3 key areas: climate risk and its effects on the financial sector, challenges to the insurance industry, and the development of energy and water efficiency solution. The exercise was hosted by the Government of Grenada and the German Federal Ministry for the Environment and the Integrated Climate Change Adaptation Strategies, ICAS. Dieter Rothenberg, head of the Climate Change Programs GIZ Grenada, says it is important that these institutions understand the risk factors caused by climate change and how it can affect them.
the project we are doing, which is the ICAS project, we are having this workshop to discuss and inform the financial sector, that means insurance companies, banks, credit unions, about challenges which come up due to the climate change impacts, which we have seen and are seeing currently and which are predicted for the future. So the challenges from climate change for these sectors, for the banking sectors, for insurances. And that includes, for example, the risks of erosion for buildings, that includes the risk of flooding of buildings, that includes the risk of business failures because of, for example, lack of rain in the farming sector, for example. So basically it is about talking with the financial sector to understand how they perceive and what they think what could be done in order to be prepared for climate change.
Local coordinator of the Munich Climate Insurance Initiative, Tara James, hopes the workshop will assist the insurance industry to better understand how to deal with the risk factors and provide solutions.
I hope to get some ideas from the insurance sector in Grenada about how they view the risks to their business model and to their customers from climate change, and solutions that they have in mind for growing in these challenges as opposed to floundering.
This is the National Report. More news after the break.
The CCJ will be a Caribbean court, reflective of Caribbean culture, Caribbean values, and everything Caribbean. I ask this question: which court do you think will adequately reflect the views of Caribbean people to those who worry? Will it be the Privy Council, persons in Britain, persons who have never lived in Caribbean, persons who don't share our values, persons who don't understand what we stand for and what values we uphold? Or would it be our people who have grown among us, who live among us, who attend the churches we attend, who attend the schools we attend, who are members of the soccer teams that we are members of? Who best do you think will reflect us?
It's about time. It's long overdue. We should be there because, you know, get out of the British thing, and so we are all one Caribbean, and I think that will be binding us more together.
Yours is yours. Privy Council is not ours. No matter what we do, what we say, no matter what ties we had to England, this is the time to keep divesting ourselves of those strings that tie us unnecessarily.
There's nothing in this bill for any partisan political party. Nothing. There's only one thing in this. It's for the people of Grenada, Carriacou, Petit Martinique, and for the Caribbean region as a whole.
Justice has to be accessible, affordable, and swift.
Welcome back. Grenada moves one step closer towards implementing the National Occupational Safety and Health Policy, which will govern the protection of employees in the workplace. Stakeholders met with government officials on Wednesday to finalize plans and recommendations for the policy, which, once approved, will be brought to Cabinet for submission. For years, Grenada has been lobbying for the policy, having to pay off millions in injury and sickness benefits to workers. Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Labour, Lima Frederick, said once the policy is implemented, bad practices can be eradicated and in turn, working conditions will improve.
It also improves the image and the bottom line of a company. However, the absence of safety and health can incur loss of lives, grief to family and friends, loss of income, poor image of a company, and the employment of damage control initiatives to reverse bad practices. the cost can also be exorbitant. For example, data from the National Insurance Scheme indicate that the NIS paid out over $300,000 from January to July 2017 and for the same period in 2018 for employment injury.
ILO specialist Ariel Pino said the policy addresses much more than safety and health. It includes a more positive outlook for Grenada's economic development.
It is very important because it's showing the commitment of the government and the workers and the employers in advancing the agenda of occupational safety and health. It is not just because of the health and safety of the workers, but by improving this area as part of the decent work agenda of the ILO. What is actually happening is that the productivity is increasing, the absenteeism is lower, the moral of the workers is increasing, the perception of the people by the companies is also increased. So it has much more than safety and health. It has a lot of positive effects for the economy and for the socio-economic development of Grenada.
That story just brought the curtains down on the National Report for today. Let's recap the top story. Grenada and its dependencies not under tropical storm warning or watch from Tropical Storm Kirk. On behalf of everyone who made this newscast possible, I am Rakisha St. Louis saying thank you for viewing. Until next time.
Folks, you know my stance and you know I'm a principled person. I have stated very, very clearly that the CCJ is the way to go, and it is inevitable. Look, now people could have reservation and you have a right to, that's your business. But at the end of it all, we would have to handle our own affairs here in the Caribbean. We would have to have our own system, and I am simply saying the time is now. The time is here for us to do so. And look, we can have disagreements. We can, look, I've stated on the program my position, and there are people who say straight up, Kem, I don't agree with your position, and they challenge and they say certain things, and I respect that. We should have a healthy debating going forward. Tomorrow we will have Joseph Roberts or some of his acquaintances or some of his colleagues to come in and speak about the CCJ, and you have the opportunity to ask a number of questions the same way. But I am telling you folks, you have listened to me many a years. I am confident that the CCJ is the way to go. It may not be perfect, and nothing in life is perfect. Nothing in life except God himself. But I am simply saying this is something that you need to look at. Give it a try. Look at it. Listen to the both arguments. I am convinced that the CCJ is better for this region than the Privy Council at this point in time. And I am saying it will be better for many, many years to come. So I am simply asking of you to vote yes for the CCJ.
The CCJ will be a Caribbean court, reflective of Caribbean culture, Caribbean values, and everything Caribbean. I ask this question: which court do you think will adequately reflect the views of Caribbean people to those who worry? Will it be the Privy Council, persons in Britain, persons who have never lived in the Caribbean, persons who don't share our values, persons who don't understand what we stand for and what values we uphold? Or would it be our people who have grown among us, who live among us, who attend the churches we attend, who attend the schools we attend, who are members of the soccer teams that we are members of? Who best do you think will reflect us?
It's about time. It's long overdue. We should be there because, get out of the British thing, and so we are all one Caribbean, and I think that will be binding us more together.
Yours is yours. Privy Council is not ours. No matter what we do, what we say, no matter what ties we had to England, this is the time to keep divesting ourselves of those strings that tie us unnecessarily.
There's nothing in this bill for any partisan political party. Nothing. There's only one thing in this. It's for the people of Grenada, Carriacou, Petit Martinique, and for the Caribbean region as a whole.
Justice has to be accessible, affordable, and swift.
On Thursday, September 27th, Grenada's Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Keith Mitchell, and Foreign Affairs Minister, Honorable Peter David, are coming to Brooklyn for a special town hall meeting. All Grenadians and friends of Grenada in the diaspora are invited. Join the discussion on the state of affairs in Grenada. It's from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the auditorium of the Medgar Evers College on 1650 Bedford Avenue. Come, let your voice be heard. Thursday, September 27th, Grenada's Prime Minister and Foreign Affairs Minister in a town hall meeting at Medgar Evers College from 5 p.m.